Okay, so when you install the HVAC toolkit, you're going to have another tab here, and it's going to have the standard loads toolkit here, but then you're going to have an extra button called air terminal selection and placement. So when you open that up, it's going to import a bunch of content into your project. It's going to import all the diffusers that the layout tool uses, along with 2 schedules and a tag for the air terminals. The way that the plugin is going to lay out diffusers in your space, the inputs are going to be the space and the specified CFMs that are assigned to that space. So the space is going to give the plugin the geometry, and the specified supply airflow, specified return airflow, and specified exhaust airflow are what's going to give the plugin the CFM to select and lay out diffusers. The diffuser selections are going to be based off this here. So you can pick which diffuser type you want for supply, return, and exhaust. And you could pick the selection criteria, the maximum CFM based on, either NC or total pressure. And you're going to do this for ceilings and no ceilings. So if the plugin finds a ceiling, it's going to use this diffuser type. If it doesn't find a ceiling, it's going to use this diffuser type. So these selection criteria come straight from Price's online selection software. So the reason it's going to only be Price diffusers here is because, as far as I know, Price is the only one that has a online selection software where I could read all of this information. So you can select it by NC or by total pressure. So if you want, 30 NC, you can go through here and type that. And the maximum CFM and the associated total pressure will change as necessary. So however you want that, you can go by, and you could do it by total pressure, or you could do it by NC, or you could also do it by total pressure. So if I want this to be 10th of an inch, it'll do that. Figure out the CFM and figure out the NC. If you don't want the diffuser to be selected, you could just type something in that makes it not a number, and it'll highlight red and it won't select that size. So I typically don't select 14 or 15-inch diffuser necks because the flex duct connector, the turning radius on it, gets so big and it gets so crowded in the plenum space that you rarely have that much height available in the plenum. So I typically limit my selection to 12-inch, except for like on returns, regardless of what the amount of air that needs to be returned is, I always just put the largest diffuser size in there. But let's say I want a PDDR for the returns. And whereas the exhausts are typically ducted, so you might do, same thing here. Let's limit the neck size to 12. For the ceilings, it's going to be, pretty similar. Maybe, where you have no ceilings, you'll allow a little bit bigger diffuser in there. Also, where there's no ceilings, you typically don't put a return in. You just put a transfer duct through, or you have a return boot coming into the space. So I got all of these as NA for the return. But same thing with the exhaust. I don't know what happened here. We typically don't have exhaust CFMs in this range anyway, so none of this would be selected, but just for good measure, let me block those out. Okay, so those are selected, those are selected. Now I've got my selection criteria. Now I just need to select the space and hit place air terminals. And it will analyze the space against my selections. It will break the space down into, it'll break complex spaces down into simple spaces and address those separately. So it broke this space down, assigned, the proportion of the area, its CFM, and selected the appropriate size. So 160 CFM to this area. At 160 CFM, that's less than 185, it selects a size 6. Whereas this is the much larger area. These all get 365 CFM, you know, it picked a 10-inch. So the way that these diffusers are laid out and selected was described in the paper that I had sent everyone. So the gist of it is that as you're laying diffusers out, you can increase diffusers to decrease your characteristic length. But as you increase diffusers, you reduce the amount of CFM applied to each diffuser. And if you look at these throw and coverage areas, they're linear with the CFM applied. So what that means is going from 1 diffuser to 4 diffusers doesn't give you any better coverage because your throw is decreased for each diffuser because your CFM is decreased. And since it's linear, you know, I've got 4 times as many diffusers, but I've got a quarter of the CFM to apply to each one. So it doesn't really help me. So really what you want to do is you just want to get the space covered as best you can with as few diffusers as possible. Now, you do want the diffuser layout to mimic the shape of the room the best you can. So you don't want, in a 40 by 20 room, you don't want to just put 1 diffuser in the middle. You want to start with 2. So you want the aspect ratio of the room to kind of align with the aspect ratio of the diffuser layout. To keep a perfectly consistent characteristic length in like a 2 by 4 room, you'd have to go from 1 by 2 to 2 by 4. So this is going from 2 diffusers to 8 diffusers just to keep a perfectly consistent characteristic length, which is really unnecessary. I mean, the characteristic lengths are never going to be perfect because room shapes are odd. So really what you want to do is you want to do, a layout more like this. Go from 2 to 3 to 4. Now this is going to have about the same characteristic length, but then go to 6 and then to 8. So that this way you can step, add a reasonable amount of diffusers every time until you get underneath your selection criteria. So as soon as I hit, hey, CFM per diffuser under 489, I'm good, and that's the layout I'm going with, and I'm going to select the diffuser size appropriately. So that's how the layout algorithm works, and that's regardless of if it's ceiling or no ceiling or combined. That's how it's going to try to lay that out. So you've got a bunch of different ways to select the spaces. So I can minimize these and I could just go to spaces. I can just select multiple spaces, and it doesn't have to be just spaces that are selected. If I accidentally select other stuff, it will just ignore everything that's not spaces. So if it's air terminals, it'll ignore everything that's not a space, and it'll lay out. You can select multiple spaces. And then you could also like group spaces together using the add selected spaces button. So select those, you can add those 5 to the list, and then let's add all of these. Those, and then that's place those air terminals. And it'll lay it out for all those rooms. The other option is go through these. So here's the whole building, 3rd floor. second floor, first floor. Your other option is you can just select all the spaces. That loads up all your spaces. Hit place air terminals, and it will go through every single space in the building, and it will, you know, lay the diffusers out. So whatever workflow you want to do, if you want to go through and view the spaces as you lay them out, or if you just want to lay them all out all over the building and then go through and review and change as necessary, you can do that. Okay, so we laid out most of that floor already, this floor, and this floor. No ceilings on the first floor, so everything is the no ceiling diffusers. All in all, I think this tool, lays the diffusers out pretty close to how I would see people laying them out. It will, so right now these are all pretty clean ceilings, so there's no conflicts, but it will do a very cursory attempt at avoiding conflicts. So if there was a light here, it would try to put it here, and then it would try to put it in an empty slot just within 2 feet of the original diffuser. I don't want to shove the diffuser all the way out of the room if it's not understanding your conflicts or something. So it's just going to take one pass at coordinating conflicts. So let's look at the every instance schedule. So this is one of the schedules that comes when you open up the plugin, and this schedules every single instance of diffusers in the entire project, along with a bunch of good data about them. So, your CFM, your NC, and your pressure drop is updated as you update CFM. So let's say this jumps up to, 500 CFM. It will update your NC and your pressure drop, so you can keep an eye on that. So if I go one higher, it's going to say, hey, you're above 30 here, and it's just going to give you a quick warning. And you can change whatever that cutoff warning in the settings of the schedule. So that's a pretty cool feature because as CFMs change in the project, you want to be able to keep track of what is the new NC on this. The other cool thing it does is it writes your host to the diffuser, so you could schedule the host on the diffuser. And since you use the loads toolkit and now your spaces go up to the ceiling, now you could schedule the space that the diffuser is in alongside the diffuser. And this is helpful for one reason that I really like is you can group all of these diffusers by any of these parameters. So I like to group the space type I like to group the diffusers by the space types. And I uncheck itemize at every instance. And now it's going to group only by space types. So if I go through here and I look and I say, hey, I've got a shower room. So I've got 23 diffusers in shower rooms. So this allows me to go over here. And on my material, I don't want these 23 diffusers to be steel. I want them to be aluminum. So now I've just changed the material on all 23 of those just with that just by changing that one setting. So if you do aluminum diffusers in toilet rooms, you could do that too. So that's convenient. The other thing, because your host is scheduled, you can change this to sorting and grouping by host. So now I've got, the different ceiling types that I've got these diffusers hosted to. Now I could see those. So like for gypsum wallboard on metal stud, drywall ceiling, I like to provide a lay-in frame for those. So I could just add that accessory to all 66 of the diffusers hosted to a gypsum wallboard ceiling. I see I've got a wood paneling host there. I don't know what that is yet, but I'm just going to say, hey, my guess is that the architect is going to want some custom finish on that. So I'm just going to put that in now. And maybe that needs a lay-in frame too. So I'm going to put the lay-in frame on that. And so when you go and itemize every instance, you could see that, hey, I've made, all of these changes, pretty quickly. I didn't have to go through the model and look and see which one is in a drywall ceiling and add that lay-in frame one by one. I was able to do it all at the same time. Now this is all well and good, but you would probably never print this schedule on sheets. It's a lot of information, and it would take just pages and pages and pages of printed sheets. Now you could put this, it's no extra work to just throw this onto a schedule, but what people are used to looking at is what the print schedule is, and this is another schedule that comes in. So ideally what you would want to do is you would want to group every unique combination of all of these parameters. So what you would normally do is you would say, sort by manufacturer, then model, then service, then net size, then face size, then throw pattern. But Revit only allows you to do 4 at a time. So that so you can't use this because you want, there's 8 or 10 parameters that you want separated by. So that is what the automatic schedule separator does. So the automatic schedule separator is just going to get the unique groups of this and assign a designation to them. So there you go. So it got all your different groups and assigned a designation. So 6-inch PDDRs for exhaust. I've got 6 that are aluminum and 1 that's steel. So it separates those out, between D and E. So you know what to order, and it also allows you to tag, all this stuff. So if we go into here, here's our plan view. We want to go through and tag these now. Since I only put in 1 type of ceiling return, I can go to select all instances of these in view. And then I could go to annotate, and I can go to tag all, and I'm just going to tag the selected. I'm going to use my air terminal tags, and I'm not going to show airflow because on returns you typically don't show airflow, you just show a dash. So I'm going to select show dash instead of airflow, and I'm going to hit apply. Okay, and so this is the diffuser tag that comes with the plugin. If you typically don't tag diffusers like this, if you've got a different diffuser tag that you can use, you can modify this tag however you want. This is just an example to show you, hey, what parameters you're using. So then if I want to tag all my supplies, I'm not going to select anything. And I'm going to say show airflow, and I'm going to do that. And now all of my diffusers are tagged with the right designation that aligns to these things. So probably want to move these kind of off your diffuser a little bit. Same thing with the return. So there you go. Now you've got all your diffusers tagged, all your CFMs assigned. The other thing to note out is that, if the CFMs aren't perfectly divisible between the amount of diffusers you have, it will, offset them by 5. It, won't put like 365 3.3333. It'll just group them into groups of 5. So you're, your plans look a lot more reasonable. And now you've got them tagged. Okay, so this is all well and good if you have, you know, if you're just using diffusers and you don't have any really oddball spaces, like you don't have any natatoriums or, you know, other spaces where this kind of easier diffuser layout doesn't work. So let's say we've got like a drum diffuser that doesn't come with the plugin that you want to use. So it's not price. You're going to have to select it manually. But you still want to be able to tag it with these tags, and you still want it to show up on the schedule. So if I just drop this in, let's show it. If I drop this in, the tag is not going to work. You know, the shared parameters aren't on the tag. And if I go to my schedule, I can't add anything because the shared parameters aren't on that family. So typically what you'd have to do is you'd have to go to every single other family that you want to use, and you have to add all these shared parameters to get them to work with the schedules and the tags. So that is what the push shared parameters to all air terminals is. So when you click this button, it's going to go to all of your air terminals in your project and push the same shared parameters that make the tags and the schedules work. So click that. Parameters. And now I can go. Now all of this is going to be manual because, you know, I haven't set it up. It's not in the price online selection software. So you're going to have to, you know, type all the other parameters in. But at least your can just use one schedule. And it allows the tag to work. So let's just say, call that Z for now, just to make the tag work. There you go. So that allows you to use, you know, the good schedules, the good tags across every air terminal. You know, when you add an air terminal or when you need a specialty air terminal for any project, it'll work with anything. Okay, let's take a closer look at these diffusers. So the automated diffuser tool is only going to work with 2x2 diffusers. But if you have like a small closet or something that you want a smaller diffuser size in, you can change the face size with these selections. So if I want a 12x12 diffuser and a 4-inch, you know, I can change it that way. The other thing that you can do, let's say one of these diffusers gets pushed to the edge, and I want to do a 3-way diffuser here, I can do that as well. So, you know, 1 is 4-way, 2 is 3-way. You got 2-way corner and 2-way straight. So let's just do a 3-way here. Spacebar to line the arrows up properly. And what this is going to do is it is going to, you know, first of all, you know, as you change the throw patterns, your arrows change and your text changes. So now we're going to have should have a throwaway 3-way in here somewhere. Single 3-way, yeah. So we've got this one 3-way that has changed. So your arrows are going to be linked to your schedule. So if you've got if you've only got 3 arrows, it automatically updates the schedules. I know that gets messed up a lot in you know, keeping the arrows synced with the schedule is a tough job when you have to do it manually when you're in AutoCAD. Now, we're going to go back to this print schedule, and remember, I've added a couple different types here that aren't going to be, that haven't been sorted out yet. So you're going to want to rerun, you know, when you're done making changes on the diffusers and you're ready to put this on the schedule, you're always going to want to run the automatic schedule separator. So that's just going to find those new kinds and separate them out. So, you know, it split these into 2 different ones. You've got 22 8-inch SPD supplies, and you've got that are 4-way, and you've got 1 that are 8-inch supplies 3-way. Same goes with face size. So, but now all those tags just automatically updated. You know, so now I've got my designation linked to my throw arrows, linked to my schedule, which is very helpful. Okay, the last thing that this allows you to do is you've got a space airflow check schedule. So the space airflow check is going to compare the specified supply airflow with the sum of the airflows that are actually assigned to the diffusers in the space, and it's going to warn you if one's not right. So if I go to my space airflow, I'll see all my supplies are right because I just laid out, you know, all my diffusers based on my supplies. My returns, some of them are not right, and if you go and look, you'll see that these are the no ceiling spaces where we said, hey, don't put returns. So like this space, hey, my supply is good, but I don't have any return diffusers in here. In reality, I don't want return diffusers in here. I'm probably going to put a transfer or something in. So for the returns, you know, you're going to have some problems. And then the exhaust, you're going to want to match perfectly, and that's fine. So this way, if let's say you're going through the job and a diffuser accidentally gets deleted out of a project, now when you go to your airflow check, it warns you. It says, oh, you've got a space where the, you know, so the supply, the specified supply doesn't meet the actual supply. So now you need to go back and check and see what happened there. So for supply and exhaust, you want the CFMs to match exactly. For the returns, you don't really care if they match exactly. You just want to know, hey, I've got enough, you know, one return. So I said my returns can handle 1200 CFM. So as long as I don't have more than 1200 CFM in this room, I don't really care. I just want to be warned when there is return. So for that reason, the returns go in at whatever value you had this set at. And as long as they're above the supply CFM, or the specified return CFM, as long as they're above, it's going to show you that you're okay. That's another reason we don't use the airflow tags on returns, because they're going to show the max CFM that you had set here. That way you don't have to be tracking down, you know, this schedule's more useful. You don't have to be tracking down every time you change the supply. You don't have to go and fix the return. It's just, you're automatically going to be okay. Unless you get above 1200 CFM in a room, then it's going to say, hey, you probably need another return in this room. So that's pretty helpful, and that's why we use the show dash here. And that's how the tool works. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, reach out to me on LinkedIn, however you want to contact me. I'm here to support you. Thank you.